Hello everyone, I'm Critic Ray, you are the viewer, and I was supposed to have a blue jacket for this. And today we will be reviewing every single coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Now, you're probably wondering why I chose this park. Well, mainly because it's the Cedar Point of the West Coast. And two, because it's literally the only Six Flags park I've been to. I'm a new coaster enthusiast, okay? Don't judge me. Anyway, this review will be painfully obvious, as the people like to say these days. So, let's get started with the first one. Okay. No worries. I'll see myself out. I'll admit, I expected hate from this one. I don't get how people like this thing. Like, who the freak likes that? Apparently tons of people do. And the GP can definitely agree with me because of how this ride always has a freaking 5-minute line. So, coaster enthusiasts who like Riddler's Revenge, what the frick? Why do you like leg pain so much? I don't get when people say they like, get certain pain when they ride on stand-up coasters. I didn't get that. I just got leg pain. Like, it was unbearable. Like, you can always get some inverted coasters that'll give you a nice smack to the legs. But Riddler's Revenge felt like someone was sawing into them with absolute force. It just wasn't a good feeling to ride. I rode it again in the front row just to check, and it hurt less, but it still hurt really badly when I got off. I can definitely say that the riders that were getting off also agreed, because the riders were saying a lot of words that don't describe the ride well. And no, I don't mean swear words, as in they were saying words like ouch and ow and stuff like that. Some other things that I'd like to add on were also that the worst parts of the ride are definitely the flat spins. You just go over those and your legs get destroyed. It feels like someone is freaking hammering them to death. It literally feels like you're being beaten on the legs. And the mid-course break one makes me go like, oh please let this E-stop, but it never does, because it's a B&M, and B&Ms are really reliable, so don't expect it to E-stop anytime soon. And if it does E-stop, then you're lucky for two reasons, mainly because E-stops are rare on coasters, and two, because E-stops on Riddler's Revenge and for leg full of pain problems are so good, because at that point you're already in immense pain, and the rest of the ride is just gonna add on more. Anyway, on to the next one, which is... Aha, joke's on you, Viper fans! I have a whip. I know for a fact that the fan base for this coaster is actually less than Riddler's Revenge, which is kind of good. Honestly, I don't think Riddler's Revenge should be at the park anymore, but that's another discussion for another day. But Viper, it's just, I don't know what it is about it. I've only gotten one ride on it. I was gonna re-ride it on my most recent visit to Magic Mountain, but I'd rather ride X2, which is literally next door to it, than ride Viper again and possibly risk ruining my day with a terrible ride on a terrible coaster. But people say that Viper could be fun. I honestly don't think it could be. Seriously, the transitions on that thing are terrible. I'm like, it does look like it's smooth, but I remember getting absolutely destroyed in my seat, so I don't get what people are saying when they say, oh, Viper's really smooth and you should really try it out. Viper's not smooth, it's rough, uncomfortable, and then transitions look like someone went into Planet Coaster, clicked autocomplete, and called it a day. I don't really have that much to say about Viper as I do about Riddler's Revenge. It's purely just a point of the fact that the transitions are bad, the coaster's bad, its location is okay, the trains are bad, the fact that there's over-the-shoulder restraints are bad, the fact that it's focused on inversions is bad. Basically, the cons really outweigh the pros, assuming there actually are pros, because that one pro is barely even a pro at all. It's probably just a prawn, because, get it? Pro, con. Oh, right, I forgot I'm doing a video. Yeah, sorry. Saying the name Goliath just straight up puts me to sleep. I don't know if you could tell, but Goliath, my last ride on Goliath, I literally tried to fall asleep on the lift hill, and it kind of worked. I kept a straight face down the drop, which you can do, because honestly, I'm like, come on, a freaking 45-degree drop, or whatever degree drop that thing is? No. With Scream and Riddler's Revenge and Tatsu and X2 and Twisted Colossus both having drops above 50 degrees, and then Goliath over here with its freaking under 50-degree drop, definitely, don't even question it, it's definitely under 45 degrees, don't even, no contest. You can definitely tell that this drop is gonna be terrible, and don't even get me started on the mid-course brake run. You're just over here getting ready for another airtime moment, which doesn't even come, by the way, because there's only one airtime moment on Goliath. You came up to the mid-course brake run, and you slow to a crawl of 0.01 miles an hour. It's like, why? Why, Giovanola? Why did you have to slow it down that freaking much? It's just, Goliath makes me want to sleep. Goliath is not a giant menacing creature waiting to destroy all who come in its path. Goliath is a freaking bedtime story. Goliath is the kind of coaster that you'd ride on after you've gotten tired of one too many rides on Twisted Colossus for the entire day. Either that or coming off of a very headache-inducing ride on Scream. Goliath, the only good part of Goliath is that one airtime hill and the helix. Everything else, just bad. It's just bad. The mid-course, bad. The drop, bad. The turnaround, bad. The weird twister section, bad. Six Flags, why didn't you just get a B&M? They make Twister Hypers. You could have just gotten a B&M Twister. You could still get the same height record, you could still get the same speed record. B&M does that, they make Gigas now. Just please, take out Goliath and put in a B&M. You'll thank the coaster enthusiasts, and the GP will thank you. Because, yeah, Goliath sort of gets a line nowadays, but it's never that long of a line. It's always under 30 minutes. So, just everyone's learned that Goliath is a bedtime story, not a menacing creature of a coaster. So please, Six Flags, do us all a favor, replace it with a B&M. Thus, the hate train continues, but this one, I'll cut a little bit of slack. We have Gold Rusher. Now, Gold Rusher, as I said before, I'm gonna cut a little bit of slack, because this was Magic Mountain's first ever coaster, freaking 1971, opened with the freaking park. Because Gold Rusher, it's an aero coaster, so very obviously it's gonna have transitions that make you have a whiplash. Gold Rusher, it's good, you can like ride on it, it's sort of just kind of meanders around, it sort of goes through a turn, then a left hill, then a drop, then a few twisty. The only good part of Gold Rusher is the part where you crush the poor soul sitting next to you, because I'm being serious, my last ride on Gold Rusher, I literally crushed the person sitting next to me, they had no chance. The lateral G-forces on that one turn. Arrow, why didn't you turn that curve just a little bit steeper? Those laterals are just crush the poor soul sitting next to you. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Gold Rusher. It's sort of just there. Like, Gold Rusher is one of those coasters that you're just like, well, I'm done marathoning Twisted Colossus, West Coast Races, and Tatsu. So what now? Oh yeah, Gold Rusher, that exists. And then you go on Gold Rusher and then come out with back problems. But that's pretty much it with what I have to say with Gold Rusher. It's just sort of there. Next, we have Scream. Now, this is the funny thing. Scream is the one coaster that everyone I know who's been on it says that it was the one coaster at Magic Mountain that didn't make them scream. Which was just, well, I mean, like, obviously you don't include rides like Gold Rusher. But still, though, Scream was the only big coaster at Magic Mountain that didn't make them scream. And I think that's just so ironic, because the ride is literally called Scream. You had one job, B&M, at Six Flags, and you failed miserably. Don't even get me started at the setting. It's literally on the parking lot. How do you mess that up? You seriously can't just dig up the tarmac, replace it with some nice grass? No, that'd be too expensive for Six Flags. This was built during a time when Six Flags built a freaking B&M Hyper on a hill that costed above $20 million, and they couldn't freaking dig up some tarmac. Really, Six Flags? I get it. You went bankrupt after that, but it's not like you cared. You obviously didn't care, or else you wouldn't have put in Tatsu, X2, and all the other expensive coasters. You wouldn't put any of those in there, because, I mean, like, if you cared about your money situation, then you obviously wouldn't have put it there, but then you would bankrupt, and, now we get cheap Six Flags where freaking season passes are $18. Scream is just a ride that makes you sort of go, wee, but that's pretty much it. The turn, it's okay. The first loop, eh. The second inversion, it just sort of, there it goes. Then, it just sort of goes through the inversion, just sort of gracefully, just, The mid-course break run happens, you barely even notice it, then you go into the next turn. The only good part of Scream is the 0G roll. Other than that, it's pretty much just meh. So, on to the next one. Now, finally, we get past the part of coasters at Magic Mountain that are bad to meh, to coasters that actually, I can say, were pretty fun. Either that or just enjoyable. Starting off with Apocalypse. Now, on my first ride, I was like, okay, yeah, I had no idea what was going on. But after my second and then third ride on Apocalypse, I could understand that Apocalypse is actually a good coaster. I'm like, you have to get past the roughness because, I mean, like, it's a wooden coaster. What the frick did you expect? Apocalypse, it's actually a good coaster. Granted, it's a wooden coaster, so, like I said before, you expect to get a little roughed up. But if you get past that Apocalypse, it's actually pretty fun. Now, would I marathon it? Frick no. That thing would beat me up if I tried to marathon that thing. I'd only be able to do that thing twice. I've only done it once every single day. Because I did it once on my first visit, it was closed on my second visit, and then I did it on my other two visits, obviously. So, that was pretty much it. So, if there's one thing I like about Apocalypse, it's definitely the theming. This is one of the best themed rides at Magic Mountain. No question. And it's right next to the best themed coaster at Magic Mountain, so it's sort of like a theming area, if you'd call it that. It's pretty cool. That's pretty much all I have to say about Apocalypse. It's a good GCI. It was actually my second GCI after Ghost Rider, and hot take, Apocalypse is very much better than Ghost Rider. Fight me. But let's get on to the next coaster. Next, we have Ninja. And in case you're wondering, no, I'm not going to do the freaking hi-ya thing, because I only do the tagline with Tatsu. You only do the tagline with Tatsu, nothing else. Ninja is sort of just like a fun family coaster. It's a little bit, shaky, but that's because it's an aero coaster that's pretty old. Every single aero coaster that's old is definitely going to be shaky because, it's an aero coaster. The transitions are pretty bad, and the seats and the trains are sort of shaky, so that's expected. But it actually is a pretty good suspended coaster. It's very swingy, very obviously, and I even remember on my first ride, I actually sort of went into an inversion a little bit. Obviously didn't go fully upside down, but I did go past the 90-degree mark. So Ninja definitely can be intense on some days and less intense on others. It just depends on when you catch it. Both of my rides were actually during the late afternoon. I'm assuming the day that I went, because I rode Ninja again on a very quiet day, so it wasn't running as much, so I'm assuming that's why I didn't get as much whippiness as my first ride, but my first ride was definitely pretty good. So now, on to the next coaster. Here's one I'll get some serious hate for. Ooh, I can feel the comments. The new revolution. Okay. Before you all grab your pitchforks and your knives, we all have this controversial opinion that one ride that everyone considers as bad is really good. But I can say I actually think the new revolution is a pretty good ride. Like, I like it. Yeah, granted, it is forceless. It doesn't have that much to it, but I like its gracefulness. Maybe it's because I was practically raised on Manta at SeaWorld San Diego, and that's one of my favorite coasters. Because, I mean, like, I named my entire channel off of Manta. Can you not tell that that's one of my favorite coasters? But New Revolution, it's actually pretty good. I like it. It reminds me of Manta without a launch. It's graceful. It has some nice moments. It can provide some nice, forces, just, of course, not that forceful, because it's a family coaster, and it's a good first inversion for most people. I like the build up to the loop. It's pretty nice. Pretty good for the 70s. Now, that's pretty much... Now, I don't have that much to say about this coaster. I do think that the fact the chain lift starts in the station, and the chain lift is curved, is really weird. Like, Schwarzkopf, what the frick was that? Then also, it's a chain lift. Schwarzkopf isn't really known for using chain lifts on their coasters, so that's something. But, yeah, New Revolution, pretty good. So, now onto the coasters that you can probably already tell with what I've left out and what I've kept in. You can probably tell what these next coasters are going to be, but can you tell my ranking? No, you cannot. And if you can, then good for you. But now, on to... And to continue the actually pretty good rides trend, we have Batman the Ride. Batman the Ride, it's freaking intense. I've heard people talk about Batman coasters being pretty whippy, but I did not expect it to be this whippy. Like, my blood is just going from legs to head, legs, head, legs, head. It's just constantly moving. And that's what Batman the Ride is. It's like you're the criminal, and you're getting hit in the face by Batman. You're just constantly being moved around, flipped upside down. It's amazing with how much B&M really packed into such a small space. And, of course, Batman the Ride has sort of been dwindled because of how much Six Flags has cloned it. But I bet if Six Flags didn't clone this ride, it would have had a better face, because Batman the Ride is actually pretty good. Granted, it wasn't the first Batman the Ride. The first Batman the Ride was actually installed a few years prior. But this Batman the Ride, I can definitely say, is actually really good. My favorite part are definitely those flat spins. You definitely go through them really quickly, and it is just insane. So, Batman the Ride, I can say that you are definitely a very, very intense coaster. Now, on to the next one. Now we have Superman, Escape from Krypton. Now, we're sort of continuing a trend here with the DC coasters, but this is going to be the last DC coaster on this list, so you don't have to deal with that anymore. But Superman Escape from Krypton, I can definitely say, pretty good. I liked how you just shot backwards. I rode it right before one of the sides started facing forwards. I went when it was facing forwards, but I never got to Superman Escape from Krypton that day because I was more occupied with riding other coasters. But I can say with my one ride backwards on Superman Escape from Krypton, it was pretty intense. The main part that made it intense was just that launch. The rest of the ride was pretty much just normal. I'm like, it's literally just an L. That's literally it. It's just an L shape. Now, someone would probably make the joke that the ride is a big L, but in my opinion, it isn't. It's actually pretty good. It definitely was not worth all the waiting that people back then got for the ride. It really does not seem worth that much time because of all the delays with how it was one of the first coasters to use an LSM launch system. But, you know, it's just sort of good. Not as intense as Batman the Ride, but I'd consider it that I'd ride Batman the Ride and Superman together. I'd rank them pretty close to each other. Not as far as some other spots I'd rank them away from. So, now, on to the next one. Next, we have Full Throttle. Now, Full Throttle, I can definitely agree, it's actually pretty short. I've only really waited about, at most, 20 minutes for Full Throttle. If Full Throttle has a long line, I'm not waiting in it. Full Throttle is definitely not a ride worth waiting a long time for, because it's really short. It's sort of been characteristic to the Skyrocket 2s. Some people are even calling it a Skyrocket 3, because Full Throttle is pretty short. It's almost as short as the Skyrocket 2s, especially considering how it has the same characteristics about it going backwards then forwards, just instead of that being at the beginning of the ride, it's in the middle of the ride. So I can definitely say Full Throttle's pretty fun. The loop, I can say, gives some pretty good hang time. I killed to get that freaking rollback, seriously. A rollback on Full Throttle, it probably wouldn't be as fun as a rollback on something like Accelerator, but a rollback on Full Throttle, I'd really love to have that unique experience. Having a rollback on Full Throttle. So the airtime hill on the top of the loop, I didn't really feel that much from that. Yeah, I kind of felt some airtime, but not really much. I don't get why people are saying you got a good pop of air on that. I didn't feel that. But I can definitely say that I didn't actually notice the brakes on the drop that much. So I don't get why people are complaining about the brakes on the drop. But that was for Full Throttle. It's pretty good. I like it. It's good. So now, on to the next coaster. Now we have X2. You may have heard in my X2 review that I actually really like this coaster, but it started to slip in my rankings. Why? Because I sort of started to realize that I don't really like X2 that much. Like, I still really like the coaster, but I don't like it as much as I thought I did. Of course, the flipping element adds some pretty insaneness, but I'd rather ride the next 3 coasters more than I'd ride X2, because X2, it's just, I gotta say, it's pretty good, but I wouldn't call it one of the best coasters in the world. Now, I don't think X2 is rough. I've only ridden on inside seats this entire time, so once I get a ride on an outside seat, then I'll probably start to understand why people say X2 is rough. But I can say that X2 is actually surprisingly smooth for a almost 20-year-old Aero coaster. But it's like X2 is sort of just a good coaster. I can still call it part of the park's top 4. It's definitely a top 4 coaster, but not the best one. Now, on to the next one. Next, we have West Coast Racers. Now, as you may have heard me mention multiple times before, West Coast Racers is the best themed ride at the park, by far. West Coast Racers is just, like, really well themed. I'm surprised Six Flags even went this far with the theming. Maybe it's because they had a brand deal and they kind of needed to show off what the brand did, but I gotta say that some of the stuff they did here was actually not that necessary, that they did anyway, because Six Flags decided to do that. I can say I'm really impressed with Six Flags with what they did with theming. It's definitely the best themed ride in the park. Can say that for a fact. Now, I do say that this is better than X2. If I was given a choice, West Coast Racers and X2, I'd ride West Coast Racers. Because West Coast Racers is just pure fun. And I'll also say that about the next coaster on the list. West Coast Racers is just pure fun. You can race the other side, and unlike Sus Coaster, you race it every single time. Because I still don't understand why Six Flags couldn't have just called up RMC, had them modify the block system a little bit, and make it so one train waited for the other train to catch up. Seriously, why couldn't you have just done that? It wouldn't, yeah, granted, you would have to stop, but it would make it a lot better for dueling. You'd duel every time, and I think that's a pretty good trade-off, Six Flags, so I don't really get it. So, Yeah, West Coast Racers, it's really good. I love it. I love this coaster. It's fun. Whenever I get off it, I'm never left disappointed. And I haven't had this experience yet, but hopefully soon I will. When you put a friend on the other train, you wait for one train to go by, then you get on the next train, and you race the other friend. That seems like a really fun experience. So I can definitely say that West Coast Racers, you are a good coaster, and with how you're the newest coaster as well, West Coast Racers is a smooth coaster. It's fun, it's nice, not too intense. I love it. It's good. Next, we have Tatsu. Yes, I needed to hold it out for that long. As I said before, you only do the tagline with Tatsu. Only with Tatsu. Because Tatsu, oh, I love it. It's amazing. Definitely not as good as the number one, but oh, it's so good anyway. Tatsu, it's just good. The pretzel loop, pretty intense. Pulls a lot of G-forces. Love it. The inversions, love them. Amazing. Graceful, nice, feels like you're flying with how it's on the mountain, It's a hill, but it's a mountain. It's on the mountain, you feel like you're flying as a dragon. It's amazing, love it, it's great. I love this coaster, it's so good. Now, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. The theming, pretty good. The trains, they're B&M Flyers. I love B&M Flyers. They're not too restrictive, they're actually pretty good. I could say, Tatsu, love it, amazing. Never take this thing out anytime soon. And now, the number one coaster, the best coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain, the one that I would ride over all the others. You all probably saw this coming, considering how much I mentioned it before, but is the one, the only dueling RMC in the world, the only hybrid coaster in California that is made by RMC, Twisted Colossus. Yes. It's all good. It's all good. The lift hills, they're pretty good when you're dueling. The drop, amazing. The first speed hill, amazing. The hill into the high five, I love it. The high five, it's amazing when you're dueling, and even when you're not dueling. On the green side, you get some really good whip. It's like a mini West Coast Racers high five. Then you go up and then into the double down, and for the other blue side, you go into a giant drop. That's so good, I love it. They both provide so much airtime. Then you go into the Top Gun stall, and when you're dueling, oh, you can see the riders above you, they're all having so much fun, and when you're on the green side, you can see the riders below you. It's so good. And then you can they just go over and under and over, and then two double ups right beside each other, so you get to see the other train in clear view this time. Then you go down and into an outer bank, and then you slow down, and you get to do it again. It's just so good. I love it. This is the best coaster. It's my favorite coaster. That may change when I go to some other parks like Cedar Point, Kings Island, and some of the parks in Texas. But for the time being, Twisted Colossus, you're amazing. I love it. It's so good. Twisted Colossus, never take this thing out anytime soon. Let it live longer than the original Colossus did. This coaster deserves to have a long, long lifespan. RMC, you did your best work on this one. Alan Schulke, you were still an absolute god when you made this. Alan Schulke, RMC, Six Flags, well done. You did amazing on this coaster. And the area that it's in too, the Scream Punk District, it's amazing. I love it. It's all good. It's all amazing. It's so good. It outshines all the other coasters in the park by a long shot. I can just say, Twisted Colossus, it's really good. If you go to Magic Mountain, it's open, ride it. Make it the first coaster you ride of the day. I don't care. Get on this coaster. It is that good. So that will be it for this review. I can definitely say that this is the longest video I've made ever. So that's why it's been such a long gap for me uploading, because I've been working on this video. I really hope you all liked it. I spent a while on this video. So if you all like it, that will be amazing. Be sure to share the video, because sharing, honestly, it helps out a little bit more than subscribing, because it gets more people to then subscribe to my channel. It just makes sure that you get this video out to as many people, and my channel's videos to out as many people. Subscribe, hit the like button. I don't know what that does, but it does something good. It tells me that you like the video, so be sure to like it, subscribe, share, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.